Good morning. Thank you again for joining. This is the Strategy Meets Impact Show hosted by Philip Noel. I just want to first and foremost, of course, always thank Mr. Mike King for his partnership and his due diligence of continuing to bring amazing guests into the studio. Today, I have a remarkably special guest, Mr. Garrett Sawyer here today, who is our fourth district school board representative here in the city of Richmond. So I just want to just get right into it and say thank you for coming,
I appreciate it, man. I really
man.
thank you for the opportunity to be able to come on this morning and speak with everyone about what I'm currently doing, what I've already done, and what I plan to do in the future.
Because you're doing a lot. You're doing a lot.
Trying my best, man.
Yeah, is and for the viewers and listeners,
Yeah.
just give them a good understanding of where the fourth district is.
Yes, that's a good question. So it actually starts near Forest Hill Park,
Hmm.
and then it goes completely south all the way up to Pony Pasture.
Okay.
So we have five schools currently in the fourth district, those being Westover Hills Elementary
Mm-hmm.
School, Lucille Brown Middle School, Southampton Elementary School, J.B. Fisher
Hmm.
Elementary School, and then the Huguenot High
Come
School.
on.
Right now, I got to give them a shout out because they do such a great job currently in football.
Yeah.
So it's a great time.
For the viewers, that was a slight shot in there a little bit, but no, it's not a big deal. That's impactful because there are some districts that maybe don't have all three of elementary, middle, and high school, right?
That's
I know
correct.
there's some
Yeah.
districts that don't have in high school in their
Yeah.
in their parameters. So
Absolutely.
how big of it, of a responsibility to say like, hey, I not only serviced our youngest there at elementary, but
Mhm.
I literally see it all the way through 12th.
Yeah, I think it's important. I'm very involved in all
Hmm.
five schools within the district.
Yeah,
It's taken a significant amount of time to build rapport with our principals, our assistant principals, our support staff, our educators in
yeah.
all five schools, but also connecting with the parents.
Hmm.
Because I think at times, parents sometimes don't feel like their voices are being heard.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that through me being the representative, that if they have a challenge, I don't care if it's from transportation, if it's to
Right.
instruction, if it's to school safety, these are the topics that I have conversations on every single day,
Yeah.
and that we're, collaborating together to find the best pathway forward to address those concerns
Yeah.
so they don't exist.
And I love it because you mentioned the parents. The parents play such a critical role in just the work that you do. I know
Yeah.
that you yourself listen to so much feedback that you're given to by the parents, right? So of course, when people think school board, they think the kids,
Yeah.
which it is. It very much involves
Mhm.
them, but you're also a steward for the parents, right? And
Absolutely.
so with that being said, like what have you learned even just this year from our parents regarding what it is that they're looking for, or even their challenges or concerns right now?
That's an excellent question. I actually joined on the board in May of 2024.
Mhm.
So I've been on for about 5, 6 months at this point.
Mhm.
I was appointed to the role after my predecessor resigned from his position.
Got you.
So, the biggest things that I've heard from the community is one, they want to look at how we're addressing our facility concerns.
Yeah.
I'm a product of Richmond Public Schools myself.
Got you.
I grew up in the
Which is
fourth
important.
district, so
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm the unique, I guess,
Right.
perspective
Right.
in this race is because I'm the only person who has lived in the district and actually has attended the public school system
Truly.
from beginning to end.
Yeah.
So when I went into Westover Hills,
Mhm.
and that's where I attended for elementary school, seeing it in the same condition that it was when I attended
Wow.
back in the late '80s, early '90s is
Yeah.
problematic for me.
Yeah.
And I know, over the course of the last 30 plus years, the issues just continue to kind of stack on top of each other.
Yeah.
So we have to put together a strategic plan today.
Mhm.
No, no, down the road. We need to
Truly.
build a
Today.
plan today of how do we look at renovations or rebuilding of schools
Yeah.
within our communities, so that no child or no parent or
Mhm.
no educator, no support staff feels that they're going into a building that is not healthy for them,
Right.
that's not safe for them.
Wow.
So that's something that I'm really focused on is being about the business and not just coming in and talking about things, but
Truly.
truly setting action
Truly.
to what I'm talking about. Another thing that I think people are really focused on is that they want to look into investment before and after school programming.
Wonderful.
We
Yeah.
know that our parents are working very hard
Mhm.
to make sure they're putting food on the table for their kids, to make sure that they are set up for success. But I believe in this what's called wraparound
Truly.
services. We should make sure that we're investing fully into the child to make sure that they are achieving. We know from looking at the data that once you get to age 8 or third grade,
Mhm.
depends on where you're actually reading at. It's gonna determine your future in many different ways.
Yeah.
So I'm really focused on early childhood education and expansion of that.
Mhm.
but also making sure that every child, even once they get past the third grade, they have access to great programs
Yeah.
throughout the community. So I've already began to have conversations with Next Up and communities and
Love
schools.
next up.
A
Yeah.
lot of our great partners that we already have, but we can expand those so much more,
Right.
and touch so many more kids, so they can be able to be set up for success.
And that's big. And being set up for success also involves very much the teachers, right?
Absolutely,
And the staff
absolutely.
there at these schools. So can you speak a little bit about just where we are for the state of our educators
hmm
currently? How are we right now?
Yeah, that's a heavy question
Mhm.
because I think a lot of our educators historically have not felt valued.
Yeah.
They've not felt supported. And for me, coming from a human resources background,
Mhm.
I look at compensation, I look at benefits, and I analyze that every single
Man.
year for every single employer that I've ever worked
Yeah.
for. And I think there's been some great gains in the recent years, obviously with the passing of collective bargaining
Mhm.
for our educators in the school division. But there's more we can do.
Yeah.
We have to invest more into continuing education for all of our educators.
Mhm.
We have to make sure that they feel valued and supported and heard
Yeah.
every single day. So when we look at retention, which is a big issue, not just unique to Richmond, but
Yeah.
school divisions across the
Wow.
country,
Yeah.
we have to make sure that we are doing the absolute best that we can to retain our
Mhm.
teachers. We can't stand to lose another teacher to another neighboring county
Right.
school division,
Wow.
or just leave the profession altogether. We
Yeah.
can't afford that. So I'm one of my biggest focuses is making sure that we do a better job
Yeah.
of retention of our educators, so that they can continue to love on our scholars and make sure that they're set up
Right.
for success.
Right. And when you're doing that work, and again, you said you came into your role this year in
hmm
2024, and of course, this is an election year,
hmm
and you are on the ballot
That's
to
correct.
continue your work and your progression here. Um, Maybe what are the top two, probably top two, maybe even three accomplishments that you're like, man, I'm really glad I was able to help see this from beginning all the way to its fruition.
Yeah, for me, again, I'm an action driven individual.
Yeah.
I do not like when issues are brought to me
Yeah.
and nothing happens.
Right.
So one of the biggest things that I addressed very quickly was about a month ago at this point.
Hmm.
The intersection of Forest Hill Avenue and Jank Road, which is right next to Westover Hills Elementary
Yeah.
School. There's been a long-standing challenge from talking to parents in that community
Okay.
of being able to get their kids across the street
Wow.
safely. They've asked for years, and
Yeah.
nothing has ever been done. And that's something that we need to address on many different fronts
Yeah.
because many people, were the owners of making sure that that was addressed, and
Yeah.
it didn't happen. So when I was brought into the fold is when several parents reached out to me on a Thursday morning.
Hmm.
They were trying to cross the street with their children,
Yeah.
and they were almost hit by a car.
Wow.
And I immediately was like, we got to figure out
Yeah.
something ASAP.
Yeah.
So I went out. The next morning, I met with the parents.
Hmm.
I, played crossing guard myself,
Yeah.
and I immediately started working directly with our superintendent and
Yeah.
the administration. And within 24 hours, we had a permanent crossing guard at that
Right.
intersection.
Right.
So that's what I mean. It's about
Right.
action. It's not just about just kind of talking about it, but really making sure we're finding solutions to help our
Yeah.
community. Secondly, there had been a longstanding issue at Southampton Elementary School where they have been asking for, a new AC in their teachers' lounge.
Hmm.
They were sweating or freezing to
Man.
death,
Yeah.
for the last couple of years. We got that repaired in less than a week.
Gotcha.
We were able to fix a fencing issue at Westover Hills that had been an issue for a full school year. We got
Yeah.
that done within the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Westover Park, which is now coming online for construction in December of
Okay.
this year. This was it's basically the larger fields and kind of underutilized or basically broken down
Hmm.
tennis courts that are behind Westover Hills Elementary School. There have been discussions with city council about turning that into a new expansive park,
Okay.
which will really kind of bring in
Yeah.
community and give more spaces for people to enjoy
Right.
in a neighboring area, or even come from outside of the area to
Hmm.
enjoy. And have pickleball courts and tennis courts and a BMX skate park and splash pad. I mean, it was, you name it's going to go back there.
Hmm.
But it had been sitting for well over a year.
Yeah.
We got that done already.
Gotcha.
So that's what I mean about being able to move things forward within a school
And that
district.
these things don't take years
They don't.
to do.
Yeah, you know, some of it
Like,
is literally
yeah,
having the
right,
tenacity, having the
right,
follow through. You know, I don't. You're not gonna bring something to me. I'm just
yeah,
gonna like sit on it and just hope it gets done.
right,
No, you have to stay on top of things in order for things to change.
yeah. And ultimately, and just again for our viewers as well as our listeners, any social media handles or websites that you can give us that can
Sure,
follow you on?
yeah. So website is
Mhm,
garrettsawyer.org. My Instagram page is Garrett Sawyer for Richmond,
mhm.
and my Facebook is Garrett Sawyer for Richmond District
Awesome.
4.
Awesome. And District 4, man, I'm excited for it because it's such a beautiful like part of Richmond.
Yeah.
And I do find that there are, people who may live in different districts who might not even spend that much time in the fourth,
Hmm.
right? Can you just describe to me like where your joy when you think of like, man, I get to lead the fourth district in this type of role, this
Yeah.
particular role. How much like how much does that do for you? Is that something you wake up with a level of excitement about each morning to do?
I do, man. You know,
Yeah.
it's something I get excited about. I
Yeah.
think when you've grown up in the district now that you get to serve,
Yeah. Truly.
that's something special. You know,
Truly.
and you know, I remember the days of spending weekends at
Yeah.
Forest Hill Park.
Yeah.
You know, becoming older and going
Mm.
to pony pasture.
Yeah.
I'm a big outdoorsy type of guy
Mhm.
anyway. So what better district to live in than the
Truly.
fourth? You know,
Truly.
where you have everything at your access. So those are the things that really always excite me
Yeah.
about the fourth. You know, I remember spending so many Saturdays going over to the farmers market at
Mhm.
Forest Hill.
Man.
And you know that's a great joy to
Yeah.
have in the district. So there's just so many great things. I mean, music in the park. You know, there's
Right.
so many things
Wow.
that come into our district that we are lucky to celebrate. We have so many great small businesses
Yeah.
too. You know,
Yeah.
I happen to live in the Stratford Hills area.
Okay.
And I'm right near the Furbished Thrift Store. We have
Mhm.
Galley Restaurant. We have
Mhm.
Natalie's Restaurant. We have E66. I mean, there's so many
Yeah.
great things that are just like in that small pocket right there.
Right.
We have Boyd Realty that just did a meet and greet a couple of weeks ago
Mhm.
for candidates within the fourth district.
Mhm.
So there's so much level of investment and
Man.
involvement. And I have to say, I live in one of the best districts in the city.
I agree, and I'm actually very excited for the next 4 years in
Yeah.
that district in particular, because what looks like will be the leadership that is going to
Yeah.
be in place for it. Another question for you: when you again think of the challenges that you're very much like, hey, different than maybe the crosswalk situation,
Hmm.
different than maybe some of those things just by just true grit, you were
Yeah.
able to get done pretty quickly. What are maybe one or two of those problems that, hey, even with full intensity and information, it's still going to take some time to really come to fruition?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, that's an excellent question. I think one of the biggest things that's going to take some time is going to be facilities.
Got you.
You know, if I had a magic wand, and I wish I
Yeah.
did,
Yeah. Yeah.
I would just wave it.
Yeah.
And a lot of the longstanding challenges that we see with our facilities and our
Right.
educational system would be solved.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, this has been, a decades long issue,
Right.
because of the lack of investment into general maintenance for our school buildings.
Okay.
Decade over decade, that's why we are where we are today.
Got you.
So that's why I am a big proponent of making sure that we go live on all of our facility plans.
Hmm.
We've released a few facility plans over the summer of this year, but
Yeah.
the rest of them hopefully will go live before the end of this year, or definitely by the beginning of 2025.
Right.
We have to begin to act
Okay.
and figure out what our advocacy, looks like,
Right.
not only at the city level but also state and federal levels.
Man.
We have to make decisions as a board
Right.
of how we're going to be able to address those concerns.
Yeah.
But one thing I'm always a big proponent of is never leaving out the community.
Hmm.
I think at times what I've seen is, and we've seen this on the city level,
Yeah.
state
Yeah.
level, everywhere. A
Yeah.
lot of times things happen, and then the community is not a part of the process of being able to voice their
Right.
concerns or maybe suggestions of how we should do
Right.
things. And then we just say, "Oh, we're doing this," and then they're
Right.
like, "Well, wait a minute." Like I would have loved to have been had my thoughts heard on this particular
Right.
topic. So I want to make sure that while we're doing this, that we are involved in the community, that
Hmm.
we are involved in our
Come on.
educators and our administrators and our
Yeah.
support staff, because everybody in totality, we're all a part of this process.
Yeah.
It's not just Garrett just sitting up here like, listen, you put me in the background. I want to be
Right.
the worker who's making sure things are going well day to day.
Right.
And making sure that I'm doing the job of a school board representative, which is to drive policy
Truly.
that improves outcomes for our school
Yeah.
division. That's the role of a school board representative. But we also are there to make sure that the division is moving forward.
Truly.
And if we are not doing things the right way operationally day after day, then we
Mhm.
need to have conversations, obviously, with our
Come
superintendent who's
on.
in charge of that.
Yeah.
We need to have conversations with his team, um, and making sure that we are making revisions to how we are operating
Yeah.
in order to get to where we need to be.
Man. And we just have about a 3 or 4 minutes left
Sure.
here, but just wanting to really kind of see again, you're up for re-election in this case
Yeah.
for you right here,
Hmm.
and we're about a couple of weeks, depending on when you hear this, or we're about 14, 15 days out right now. In 2024,
Hmm.
right? And you again, you have the unique opportunity to say, hey, I actually went through this school
Yeah.
system myself, right? Tell the viewers, tell the listeners, what makes you uniquely positioned, perfectly positioned for to be that person now.
Yeah. I think that the timing couldn't have been better.
Yeah,
When you are looking for someone who not only has the understanding of
yeah,
the school division, has the understanding of the community, I'm the only candidate
hmm,
that satisfied that
yeah,
qualification. When you have someone who has spent their entire adulthood
hmm,
investing back in the school division, whether it's been through the nonprofit that I've been associated with for 16 years,
yeah,
that does the annual back to school rally for the city of Richmond, that gives out thousands of backpacks to
yeah.
kids, but also loves on our educators and makes sure that they have
Wow.
supplies available for them
Yeah,
on day one of each school year. I'm the only candidate that meets that qualification.
yeah,
If you have someone who has already proven that they
yeah,
can be actionable and being able to address long-standing challenges
hmm,
within the school division and get them done in weeks,
yeah.
I'm the only candidate that you can say that
Amazing.
can do that. So, I am, it's an honor of a lifetime
Hmm.
to be able to serve the district as their school representative.
Yeah.
I'm committed to continue the work that I've already started. I call myself right now laying the slab, the foundation,
Hmm.
if you will,
Yeah.
and I want to build on that foundation and build a house,
Man.
and make sure that we are set up not only in the fourth, but as a school division as a whole,
Yeah.
to really support our scholars in their education.
That's huge, and I honestly feel like that's a solid way to start closing this interview. And again, just want to give you an opportunity to tell people where they can find you and learn
Yeah.
more about you and your platform.
Yeah, but again, thank you for the opportunity. Again, Garrett Sawyer, school board representative for the fourth district, running for the seat this November, on November the 5th. I
Hmm.
would love to have your support to continue the work that I'm already doing. You can find me on my website, which is garrettsawyer.org. You can also find me on Instagram at Garrett Sawyer for Richmond, and on Facebook at Garrett Sawyer for Richmond School Board District 4. And again, thank you for the opportunity to serve you, and I look forward to continuing serving you in 2025.
Garrett, thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to seeing what's in store for you, because what's in store for you is continuing to put those years of service and servitude that you have already dedicated so much of your time and energy and your intellect towards the people here in Richmond and our youth here in Richmond. And again, I'd love to hear your story. I'd love to hear what it is that you just see as pertinent issues for our students, and not only our students but our teachers and our administrative. Back to your statement of that wraparound aspect, right? It's
Mhm.
very comprehensive. So we love to see it. Thank you again for joining. And again, thank you all for listening and watching. Again, this is where strategy meets impact. And we're just thankful for continuing to have elected as well as officials that are candidates this year coming through the show. Thank you all again for listening. You can follow me at Mr_Noel on Instagram, as well as McCoy Bennett Marketing on Instagram as well. Until next time, be safe, and we'll look forward to talk to you again soon. Thank you.
Take care.